Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode 52 Authors, 52 Weeks. We are in our last month of 2024, and December 2024 has some really powerful authors. And I am blessed that you all are seeing two physicians back to back. Everyone that knows me knows that I will fight you over a physician. And so I'm so honored to, be able to connect with physicians that are authors that are exploring different passions. And so our author for today, Dr. Judy Wright, love that suit,
Thank you.
which the book is Girl, Get Off Your Life. Wait, let me say that again. Get Your Life Off the Fault Line, the busy professional's guide for mastering balance and the shift from overwhelmed to being empowered. And I'll just tell you a little fun fact. My other physician who I interviewed, her episode is right before yours. And her book was about getting our patients to be empowered, to be a part of their own care, right? Like not showing up to the visit just like don't know nothing, at least being able to talk about what the problem is and what has transpired, right? And so
Yes, yes.
I love the connection between the two books. So why don't you tell our listening viewing audience about you and your background?
Sure. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, Dr. Lisa. So as you said, I am Dr. Judy Wright. I am a family physician. I'm also a wellness and performance coach. And what I do is I help other medical professionals to really s- build sustainable performance to move them forward with less stress. So, on a foundation of life balance, stress management, and self care, some of what that other doctor is probably teaching her patients to do. um, you know, these medical professionals who are really going through it, like medical nurses, physicians, other healthcare professionals, they're really going through it, right? And it's hard to sustain that level of performance when you're feeling stressed out, when you're feeling like you don't have enough time, when your life is out of whack and out of balance, right? So why did I write this? And it said girl, right? Because I'm a woman who herself her life had gotten out of balance. I'm a medical professional, but I'm a woman whose life had gotten out of whack and I didn't even realize it. I knew I had stress, right? But I didn't even realize that. And so I wanted to address other professional women because women, the things that we have to do, our first, second, and third shift that we hold up on a regular basis, it's a little bit special. And I really wanted women to understand that you have power to become self-aware, understand what's going on, and pull yourself back from that cliff of burnout and losing everything, losing your career, losing your family life, losing everything. So that is the reason I wrote the book, and I'm very excited about it.
I love it. I feel like you need to drop this book off at every healthcare facility. And I say that because during the pandemic, I went to see my primary care physician. I went through a couple of them during the pandemic. And I kind of get emotional thinking about this, but I'm in the room with my physician, and my physician was there, but not there. And so, as we do always, I generally, have some conversations with my physicians, just not about my own medical care, but just, to kind of check in with them. And I said to my physician, which was a male, I said, "You're suffering from burnout." And I said, "I watched you. I think I had went to the bathroom or something. I said, I watched you as you walked from one room to the next. I said, I could be wrong, but I feel like you have just detached yourself from this entire work day on a daily basis. You're physically here, but you're not really here." And I knew that this physician had gone through a divorce because of how the system was kind of beating him up in terms of how he executed his practice, no work-life balance, missing out on all life events. And the pandemic just put the icing on the cake, and he literally checked out.
Yeah.
And so I think what put him over the edge, and I'm just going to say this, and then we're going to get back into the book, was that his practice was booming, and he wanted to basically start his own practice. But the contract that they bamboozled him with had him in a situation where he could not see any of us for like 5 years.
Oh
Right.
my,
So,
I
yeah,
didn't expect you to say 5 years.
five,
I mean,
five.
I've heard a year. I've even heard two. 5 years.
5 years. And this is, and I don't know if this is how it happened, but at first he was seeing patients in the hospital floor, right? So he took call, and then they allowed him to switch to where he just did clinic only. And I think somewhere in between this transition, something happened with that contract that had him locked in. And I felt so bad for him because similar to my age, but was an excellent physician, excellent bedside care. And he was just burnt out. So he literally, I was like, you burned out. You need to go see somebody. But he decided to leave healthcare altogether, just done. And I've been trying to find him. I've been Googling his name, trying to find
It
him.
happens that way. It happens that way. You're just you're just done. Like you're just exhausted. You don't want to fight anymore. And you question a lot of things when you're burnt out. You question, who am I and why am I even doing this? Right? Especially if you've put so much into it, becomes a piece of your identity. So if you don't feel like it's working out, it's like, who am I? Who am I? You know,
After all that education,
after all that education.
after that low pay during the residency.
Yes, yes, yes. And prior to that, paying people to, I don't want to be like, but paying people so that you can like do all this work that other people get paid for. Like, so you're like,
Yes, yes.
so
Oh, we can go down the rabbit hole about you having to code your own services and all of that, because
oh, I did all of that. I did
yeah,
all of that because I worked in a federally qualified health center, so we didn't have like specific coders, but even the people I knew who had their own practice and had to literally pay for a specific person to code, or pay a company. But mostly at first, they were taking their nurse and saying, "You're now going to be the coder," sending them to coding classes. Now that nurse is being a coder, I can't even tell you how many physicians I met who would go months without paying themselves because they need to cover their overhead. And this is part of the reason so many physicians sold their practices to hospital systems. It became too much where they weren't paying themselves. So
oh,
yeah.
listen. And because I started off as a medical assistant in 1992, I know that story with physicians and the overhead and sometimes not getting paid on time because they couldn't make ends meet. So I completely get it. So it's sad because a profession where you went to school to help others, you are finding that you can't even help yourself now.
That's the part. That's the part. And you weren't trained to. You were trained to help others, right? And the thing about us as medical professionals, physicians, nurses, healthcare administrators, we know what burnout looks like. We know what it looks like in other people. We don't always know what it looks like in us, right? Especially because we perform at a level that may be higher than other people. And because relative, it looks great, we don't necessarily recognize when we are headed toward burnout or when we're in the midst of it.
Absolutely. And let me just help these patients out because you said something I need them to be clear on.
Mhm.
You are operating at a different level because you're responsible for human lives. You're sitting there with the information that you have available to you, trying to make some decisions about what's going to happen next.
Yep.
medications, therapy, diagnostic tests, and you're doing it over and over again on top of these patients that want to do physical harm to clinicians.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a lot. And many people not built for that.
A lot of people are not, no, a lot of people are not built for that. And there are many ways just in regular society that people cope. That is not the best way to cope. Physicians are human, nurses are human. They cope that way too, right? Some of them cope that way too. Not the best manner of coping, right? But when you're dealing with taking care of patients, that could be extra problematic.
Absolutely. And that's the number one reason why I decided medical assistant wasn't for me. I was like, I don't care what hurt, how long it's been hurting. And I'm going to tell you what really just got me. I called you the day before. I said, bring your medication so we can know what you're taking, what you got from other people, and they show up without it. And then now we're going through all these processes to try to figure out before you can get a prescription. It's like, but I told you the day before. This was back in the
Right.
day when I would call.
And when you were when you do that, it's not even just to say, okay, we don't want to look on your list and see what you're getting. We really want to see, what did you pick up? What are you actually taking? Are you, because this thing on here said that you picked this up on this date. It still got 30 pills sitting right in this bottle. Like, I, yeah. So you're not taking it the way you're supposed to be, and that's to help you. What is the difficulty? Maybe we could help you come up with a system so that you can remember that kind of thing. There's like a bunch of reasons why we tell patients, bring that medication in, right?
Yes,
And that don't always happen.
it don't. And then, there's a potential delay, and then everybody want to blame everybody else. So let's talk a little bit about the book. And everybody who's been watching the show, we're not going to tell you everything that's in this book, just like I got my own copy. You need your own copy. And I love a book that has reflection questions at the end because I love to stop and reflect. And there was one question in here that, and then we'll really get into the book, that I saw that really hit home for me. And it was, have you ever hesitated to pivot or make a significant change? And what caused the hesitation? And I know for me, I was fearful from giving up a corporate job to focus
Mm,
on entrepreneurship.
yes,
Let
ma'am.
me just tell you, I was able to answer that question so calmly because I'm on the other side of it, because I'm a full-time entrepreneur. And so when I read it, I said, but I'm one of many who didn't do it because we were afraid to do it. So what was that moment that you decided you needed to write this book?
Mm, yeah. So it's very funny. The interesting thing about 2020 is 2020 is when I went for treatment for cancer. And I was treated, and while I was home trying to recover, that abutted right with lockdown. And I'm not trying to fly in the face of anything, because that was such a terrible time for a lot of people. It really was. And there was a lot of fear going around, and a lot of things that had, and anger,
We thought we
and
was gonna die.
that we were gonna die. And a lot of things that changed around. But there was, for me, a blessing I saw in that, right? Because it made me sit. And that's something that I knew years earlier I hadn't gotten a chance to do. I was like, I knew there's something else I had to do, and I didn't know what that thing was. I didn't. And I specifically said in 2018, I know there's something else I'm supposed to be doing. And I literally don't have the time to figure it out. And I finally had the time to figure it out. I figure a lot of things out. Like, how did I get here? What's going on? I think I was burning out. What? And I know my blood pressure was all out of whack, and suddenly it's normal. You know, so I really realized I had to start taking care of myself. I had to redefine my boundaries, and this time stick with them. I had to better manage stress because stress is inevitable, right? It's going to be there. I don't call stress normal because I don't think of stress as normal, right? I think you going to brush your teeth is normal. You blinking, that's normal. I don't think of stress as normal, but it is inevitable. It's going to happen. How are you going to manage that? And so it took me a while. It took me a while I was looking to do something else, but it took me a while to, I think, come to grips with everything before I decided around 2022 that this is what I was going to do. I was going to share my story and I was going to share with others, what I had to do to pull myself out. Um, and I always knew I wanted to write a book. Once I made my peace with that in 2023 is when it came to me to write this book. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Now, you may not know, but we are a football family over here. And so anytime I'm reading something and I see football, any analogy, anything close to football, um, I I perk up just because, just it's in our blood. So one of the things that I personally enjoyed about the book, the title says girl. And as I was reading the book, I felt like you were having a conversation with me, for me. And it was just me sitting there reading it. And as I went from one page to the next, I was like, yeah. So for example, on one page, I put 100, like this was the real deal, right? Um, I I started looking at how you picked apart the difference between resilience and perseverance and how, we're not born with it and we got to build it. And I said, this is right on the money. And it's much needed. It's almost like I want to be like, how back in the day they were delivering the newspapers and the person had their little satchel. It's almost like you want to put these books in a satchel and go to the hospital and kind of sit in the cafeteria and be like, girl, I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you. You need this book. And I think for many of us, the one thing we struggle with doing, and I wrote this on the side of my book. Let me see if I can, right here. All
Okay.
this fancy lights. Okay. You
Uh,
see, I writes in my book.
you got notes.
Oh yeah. You know why I have notes? Number one, I'm gonna help everybody out. I always write in the front of my book the day that I start the book, because months, years later, I need to be able to reflect on what I wrote in the book then, what I
Hmm.
was feeling, and really celebrate how I've grown. So, like, I could read this book and identify with the information that's in here, but I've pulled myself out of my own burnout. And so I'm just walking around free to move about the country. I'm walking in my purpose. I'm in a alignment with my assignment. But there are so many people that don't understand the concept of moving on no matter what, being able to bounce back. They get stuck
Yeah.
in a holding pattern and are there until, and this is unfortunate, a illness takes them down, they lose relationships, situationships, and then they realize, oh, I got a problem that I need to address. But they need some tools to address it, but they also need to realize that they are not alone in this journey. In
Yeah.
fact, I'm like, I feel like I know some physicians that I want to just slide this under their door. And wait a minute, I got to take it a step further. Not only slide it under their door, but highlight some areas and say, consider this, because
Yeah.
I feel like in my spirit, this is you. So, what happened after you wrote the book? How did you feel?
It's so funny. It was cathartic for me because I wanted to make sure that I was addressing what not only what I went through prior to, right, prior to getting there, the things that I did, right? Like there's a part where and I believe it's in the resilience and perseverance where I talk about the things that sometimes hold you back. And I talked about fear, right? And I talked about fear of failure. But I don't know if you noticed how much time I spent on fear of success, right? Because that's the thing that some people are like, they don't understand what you're talking about. Like, fear of success. Who fears success?
A lot of
Let me
people
tell you
do.
something. There's a lot of people that do, even though they don't acknowledge that, right? Because it doesn't sound right to people. You want to be successful. How would you fear it? Right? That can literally paralyze people, right? Because they don't necessarily know what to do with that. What am I going to do with that? It's going to be more work. I'm already overwhelmed. Now somebody's going to say they're going to have more expectations of me. They're going to give me more work, The reward for good work is right? And how am I going to be able to balance and handle all of this? It's just it's you know, it can be a lot. And this is where resilience and perseverance comes in. And I love that you brought that to your audience. It can be built, right? No, we don't just walk into the world super resilient. Even the people that look more resilient, it could be something they learned from their parents or something in their life and background, but it can be built. It's learned. And so I want people to know that because some people will feel like I just can't handle that. When I'm knocked down, I'm down for the count. No, you can snap back. You can snap back. When people like to talk about snap back bodies after pregnancy, you can snap back after some real stress. You can snap back after burnout. You can snap back and you can actually snap back and be stronger step by step. It doesn't have to be immediate. You can take little baby steps to get back and beyond because you've learned some things, right?
Absolutely.
You've learned some things and beyond where you were. And when you look back at that, and I know you have, Dr. Lee, when you look back at it, you're like,
What
I
took me
used to
so
be here.
long?
What took me so long? Whew.
You know, my book, chapter 12, is titled Faith Over Fear.
Mm.
And I wrote that chapter in Jamaica during a mastermind retreat. And my roommate said, because I spoke it to Microsoft Word and I was speaking and crying on the balcony in the hotel room. My roommate was like, "Did you record that audio?" I was like, "No, I just, spoke the words." When I released that chapter, it was symbolic of me actually giving physical birth because my only biological daughter, I had a C-section. So I never knew what it was like to push. But I
Mm.
pushed that book out. I pushed the faith over fear out to the extent that when I came out of the room, I had this glow on my face and it wakes up with me every day since.
That is beautiful. Well, I said when we got on, I said, you look like you're glowing, Dr. Lisa.
Listen, and I'm 51 and I don't know about them other women, but I'm not having no babies. I'm done. I am done. But I was in that personally, in that burn out stage of life where I was running my business. I was teaching at this university online full time, teaching at 5 other schools as an adjunct
Mm.
professor. So I was working day and evenings and weekends. And now I don't do no work on no weekends. I don't do any work in the evenings. I go to water aerobics 5 days a week because I took my life back, right? Because I was like, my blood pressure every day is like 106 over 74. And at
Very.
51, I want it to stay there.
That's right.
And
That's right.
so I had to protect my own real estate. from top to bottom, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And I'm gonna tell you, my husband, like, I like this Lisa. I'm like, you didn't like the other Lisa you married? He was like, yes, but I love where you are because you're not grumpy, you're not stressed out. I can go sit outside, whether it's hot or cold, in my woman area, because my husband has his area, but I got a gazebo where I can sit.
Oh, I should be jealous of you too.
Well, everybody has to have their space, right? So when he has his shed where he can smoke his cigars, I have my place by the fire pit where I can do the thing that I enjoy the most, which is read. And I have realized in order for me to serve those who I'm serving, I can't read any more medical books. Done. I
You know
have to,
me. I
huh?
don't watch any medical, like I don't watch any medical stuff. I'm like, I don't wanna watch. I will watch a crime drama all day. I do not want to read medical books. I do not, I mean, I'll read to keep myself up to date, but other than that, nope. I don't want to read any medical books. I don't want to watch any medical stuff. I don't want, I don't want to do it. I don't
And
want to do
that's
it,
okay.
you know? But I understand what your husband is saying, was saying that he likes this Lisa. He loved that Lisa he married before. But somewhere in between, Lisa started to burn out. I realized last year, I said to my husband, because we just had our 18th year anniversary, but last year I said to him, I wasn't pleasant to be around, was I? He was like, well,
If you really want to know, let me tell you.
you know. He said, I love you anyway, but yeah, it wasn't. And I looked at my children, I said, I wasn't that pleasant to be around, huh? And they just looked at me like, and I knew my kids love me, but was I pleasant to be around, right? Because I was just going through the motions. And if you took me off of going through the motions, I'm just like, right? I'm not, that's not me. That's not me anymore. Look, I probably before 2020, before I got diagnosed with cancer in 2019, I would never consider taking my kids out of school for any reason. Now, if I'm going somewhere internationally to talk, right? Probably happens once or twice a year. I'm like, yeah, I called up their school. I said, they're going to be out of school. See, because to me, they're learning when they're traveling to someplace else. I would have never considered that. Nope, they come in with us. Right? Like, that's the kind of thing now. So I totally get it because, you know, life is fleeting and you have to take care of yourself. You have to be your own CEO of you and you have to take care of yourself. I truly believe that. You can't leave that up to other people. And the other physician you were talking about that you interviewed, I 110% agree. You have to be part of your own medical and healthcare team and you actually need to lead it. And that means being the CEO of you, period.
Absolutely. And something I want to just do a call out, just because it's important. Many of you who are listening to this, you're going to be connecting with friends and family, but family for upcoming holidays. That is the time where you need to ask about what runs in your family so that you can capture your own history because you can't be standing over a casket trying to pull out information from someone. You need to take that time when you're having those gatherings to learn your family history because trust me, it helps when you're sitting in front of your physician and they're asking you questions and you like, you're not being the CEO of you.
That's right. And even if they don't know, because take it from my family is from Jamaica, right?
Oh, I love Jamaica. It's my favorite place in the world. My favorite place.
My family's from Jamaica. If you ask them stuff about the ancestors, those people didn't always have access to healthcare. So they didn't always get diagnosed with stuff. So the question becomes, well, we don't know. We don't know. Okay, could you tell me about what they were going through? Because I know some things and I might be able to put the puzzle pieces together, right? Your physician knows some things. So even if you just write down, well, this is the symptoms they had. This is what we saw. They lost their vision. They start to have this numbness in their feet. Nobody may have diagnosed them with diabetes, but it is saying diabetes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So don't be afraid to talk. Dr. Lisa is right. Don't be afraid to ask the questions, write it down. You don't even have to know what it all means.
just right. Just have the information.
Have the information.
Listen, my husband I probably get on his nerves because he'll call me and say, "Babe, my feet, they like tingling." I said, "You probably got neuropathy, but I'm not a physician. You need to go and, I'll make you an appointment." Or one day I said, "I think you got sleep apnea." I was watching him while he was sleeping, and then he got a sleep study and he got sleep apnea, but I'm watching him and I know that from my family. And so in my phone, I got the history.
Mhm.
My grandfather is 103, and I know what runs in our bloodline.
That's him.
And I want to be 103 because I have this vision. I'm going to have me a little condo in Jamaica because I love Jamaica. If I could go to Jamaica every quarter, I would, because it's my happy place. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yes.
And I hope, and there's another part I want to call out before we wrap up. I hope that someone listening to this, whether you are, it says girl, but let's take girl off. This is for anybody
Absolutely.
who was
Absolutely.
born, who is breathing. You need to go through this book, which, listen, some of you are saying, I don't like reading. It's only 7 chapters, 7 chapters. And I always like to ask my authors, what's your favorite part of the book? Not
Self-care.
finishing it.
Self-care is my favorite part of the book. Self-care to me is the first action towards self-love. It is the first action towards self-awareness. It is the first action towards self-advocacy. I always tell people sometimes you need to advocate for yourself to yourself, right?
Yes,
And when you learn how to do that, it's easier for you to advocate for yourself on the outside.
absolutely. I love it.
Oh,
Well, I'm just going
okay.
to tell you my favorite chapter, which is 7. 7 is my number. But in chapter 7, you start off by asking us a question, which is, do you have purpose? And had I read this book 5 years ago, I would say, yes, my purpose is all about healthcare and medical coding and healthcare compliance. But in 2024, my purpose is to be the growth motivator. And I know it. And it's such a freeing place
Yeah.
that it's not hard. Like I can do it effortlessly. And I'm doing it sometimes without even saying a word. Sometimes I'm in the pool in the water aerobics and we doing the moves and I'm just smiling. And a lady will come up to me and say, seeing you smile just helped me make it through the last part of our workout. That's what I'm supposed to be doing, motivating the masses because we need it.
Right. That's right. That's right. Absolutely. I'm glad you love that chapter.
I
Yeah.
listen,
So
listen.
important for people to find purpose. Your job, your career, and your purpose can be two different things. It don't mean you have to leave your career. I'm not saying that, but make sure you find your purpose. That's who you are.
Absolutely. So I wrote a note in here as we wrap up, and I think it said Dr. Judy Medicine. Let me see what that said. It's in here somewhere because I wrote it on the side. Too much. Yeah, Dr. Judy and medicine. So, and this is it. This is on page 22. Um, and I'm bringing this up at the end because you said I felt guilty because this is what I said I wanted to do since I was 8 years old. And I think oftentimes we think that how we started our career is supposed to be how we end it.
Right.
But if you go into that burnout phase, that burnout may end you.
That's correct. Absolutely correct. You burn down to ashes because you wanted to stick it out, but out of ashes, if you can turn it around, rises the phoenix. Some people, we allow guilt and what other people are thinking or gonna think to, dictate what we do. And that was like my first pivot, was getting out of direct patient care. And it wasn't easy. And for the first year or two of me being out of direct patient care, it was difficult for me to say, I don't take care of patients anymore. It's not difficult anymore. Right? I still have people saying, are you going back to taking care of patients? No, sir, no, ma'am. I'm not. I'm not. I'm walking um in a career that I love, and I'm still taking care of the masses, just not direct patient care, but I'm also walking in my purpose.
I love it. I love it. I think people think because you're not doing direct patient care that you're not a physician. You're still a physician.
I'm still a physician. I'm still a physician. I'm still the same person that picked family medicine. I still want to know about the people I am helping holistically. I still believe in holistic health, right? Not just your physical, but your mental, your social, your emotional, your spiritual, even your financial, is important to how well you're doing and how balanced you feel.
Oh, that was a great place to end. But before we end, tell our listening, viewing audience where they can find you, where they can find the book, because they need to get a copy. And listen, ladies, this is one of those books that you can literally say, all right, book club, we're gonna read this book. Because you know how sometimes in the book club, people they get the book, it's too thick, they don't finish it. But you could get this book, you could read it, and you can have some round table discussions about how you're feeling with life and be open and honest about where you are, where you want to be, and work towards finding your purpose.
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons I didn't make it thick. I wanted people to have time to read and think and reflect and discuss. And sometimes when we get to a book that's 300 pages,
It's rough.
when you're busy, it can be a little bit more difficult. So thank you so much. Um, so let's start with where they can find me. I'm on the social medias, right? So I'm on Instagram as Judy Wright MD. I'm on LinkedIn as Judy Wright MD and Judy Wright dot 7771 on Facebook. You can also find me on my website, which is wellnesswithdrjudy.com. And there you can actually have access to the book. I have several copies, several signed copies left. So if you buy it from there, you can get a signed copy, but it's also available on Amazon.
I love it. I love it. So for all you folks out there, I'm seeing hospitals as having retreats for their physicians or meetings. I feel like you need to pop in on grand rounds because just
Right?
come in for 30 minutes, 15 minutes. Everybody, look, they buy the book, and you just come in and encourage them, because I know that there are some suicidal physicians.
There are.
And
There are.
I want to see it stop. I'm only 51. I need the physicians and the patient care role to be around. I need
Yes,
them
we
here.
want our physicians and nurses. We want you well. We want you well, not just for us, but for you too. We want you well.
Love it. I love it. Well, Dr. Judy, thank you so much for being a part of this movement, 52 authors, 52 weeks. And to everyone else, we are climbing through December 2024. And next year, we're going to have a reunion show. Where are they now? Because we don't want this movement to end. So until next time, everybody have a great day.